Hello, hello. So, getting back on the bandwagon of drinking beer, not off of the bandwagon of not drinking beer, or not on the bandwagon of not drinking beer. Besides the point. The first thing you'd see is I made this weird. It's basically what are these things? Wedges. They were really old freezer burnt wedges that I made that were awful. So I mixed them with balsamic vinegar, olive oil, onions, rosemary. I think that was it. Oh, a little bit of cayenne pepper and salt, and just fried them until. So we'll see if this was an idea that should have been done. You know, I wouldn't feed them to anybody else. But I'm gonna eat that. Hold on, I need somewhere to put it down. I didn't plan that far ahead. The hot pan was poorly planned. I put it back in the kitchen. I'll be right back. Spent all my time prepping for this. I didn't turn the desktop down a bit. I didn't actually eat anything, but here we go. So, I was on the way home today and decided to stop at the beer store, the Best Western Plus, that just opened up near my place. And I'd been wanting to stop there for a while. They had some signs about craft beer. I was like, we'll see. Beer stores usually aren't the best for it. But as it turns out, they were actually amazing. There was a great selection, a ton of local stuff. Yeah, they had cases and cases of Bud and Bud Light and, you know, even Stella and Moosehead and all those sorts of things. But I'd say half of the place was craft beer, ciders, a ton of ciders. Yeah, really good stuff. So one of the things as I was chatting with the guys, they also had a growler bar. I'm sure they scrounged that from one of the LCs because they canceled that project. So I got to try a few there. They had Kilter, which is an amazing local brewery. So if you see any beer with a little squid on it, grab that. It is going to be a great beer. So I did pick up some of those, but that's not what we're looking at. What we're looking at is this guy right here, the Belching Beaver. So that's the name of the brewery, Belching Beaver. Now, if you believe it, it's not a Canadian brewery. You know, I started to look it up, and then I kind of got distracted, so I want to pull this up real quick. Not the peanut butter stout, not the milk stout. Oh, did I lose the, I think I lost that page. That's fine. Because they are in Belching Beaver. Little research ahead of time, but not enough. San Diego. They're out of San Diego, if you believe it. So, they're asking me if I'm over 21. Yes, I am. What are you going to show me? Yeah, so don't know a ton about them, but they seem like a fairly standard local brewery. Obviously not local to Winnipeg, but, you know, a microbrewery. So this is the peanut butter milk stout. You see that? Peanut butter milk stout. Stout, if you can read it, with natural flavors. So this little can right here, this Coke-sized can right here, I'm gonna go to the larger drink can here. So I'll bring that up a little bit so you guys can see it a little better. So there's the Belching Beaver. There's the Belching Beaver. And there's the peanut butter milk stout. All right. So this little guy right here. It's a 355 milliliter can, so like it's your standard Coke can, as you can see based on the shape of my hand. I'm not a large man. This cost me $5. So the guy assured me that it was great, that it was amazing. So I'm hoping he was right. But just before we crack this open, I do want to talk a little bit on style because I like to do that. Stout. What's a stout? Well, a stout, it's a darker beer. Okay, so It's basically you're looking at something that's going to be not for everyone, we'll say at first. So you're looking at a dark, heavier beer. Generally speaking, so there's kind of two kinds of dark beers. You know, you've got your ambers, but those aren't exactly considered dark. Those are going to be the ones that are a little more red in hue as opposed to just clear and yellow. So the dark beers are going to be your stouts and your porters. Now, technically speaking, and if anyone is ever talking to you about beer and they say technically speaking, most of what they're saying doesn't matter, but we're going to go there anyways. So the stouts. Technically speaking, a stout is a kind of porter. So a porter is a dark beer, like black. And a stout usually speaks to its specific gravity or its alcohol by volume, that, you know, something to that effect. And that's why stouts tend to be much heavier, because they have a higher alcohol volume, which makes them a thicker beer. Right? So that's sort of the stout porter thing. Now, does that always hold true? No. Beer styles are a lot like music. It's subjective. There are some very clear things. No one's going to call a particular stout an IPA. They're going to be an idiot. Just like you're not going to take, you know, a One Direction song and call it rock music. I don't think you'd call it rock music. Maybe some people would. You're not going to call it classical music. We'll say that. How about that? So anyways, so that's sort of the... Oh, I'm going to get my universal chat pulled up here just so I don't miss any sweet comments from all of the kids at home who are watching. Yeah, so that's the... that's sort of, you know, when it comes to styles, it's not a big deal, right? That being said, there is some, you know, some obviously labels help, and it gives you a general idea. So stouts and porters are themselves, they're darker beers. The stouts are going to be generally the heavier ones, you know, a la your Guinness, very, very heavy. Whereas your porters, I usually find, is a bit of a better entry into darker beers, just because they tend to be a lot lighter, a lot easier to drink. A lot of people are used to, when they try their first dark beer, they're going to be usually trying a very heavy stout, because that's generally what the popular dark beers are, is going to be a very, very heavy stout. And it's not easy to drink, right? I mean, like, for me, they're tasty and I can drink them, but yeah, they're not easy to drink. They don't go down smooth. You're going to drink it slower. It's better with food. So the porters are usually a lot lighter than you would expect. And there are some stouts that are like that as well. Now, specifically this beer, and we'll zoom into this guy here. Drink first. So specifically this guy here is a milk stout. So it's a peanut butter milk stout, but let's section out. A milk stout is a style of stout. So what are you getting with a milk stout? Well, a milk stout tends to be quite a bit sweeter than most other stouts, and the reason for that is what it does. And for the lactose intolerant out there, you should be aware of this. There's no milk in a milk stout, but there is lactose. So the lactose extracted from milk, usually in the cheese making process, from what I understand, can be crystallized, and that's what's used. Now, the reason lactose is used is because beer yeast, specifically, and a lot of other things, can't really process lactose that well. Now, they can. They certainly can process it if they need to. But they're not going to choose to do that over other sugars that are floating around. Therefore, when you are dealing with malts and other types of sugars you put in there, they're going to eat those first. The lactose is just going to sit around, and if the yeast is fed, the yeast is fed. Which means that lactose creates that milky feeling, because it is, you know, sugars from milk. And it generally survives the fermentation process. You're not getting that consumed. You're not losing that sweetness out of your beer via the, you know, consumption from the yeast. So milk stouts tend to be very sweet, not sickly sweet. It's not like a piece of candy. It's not like a very fruity beer or Radler or anything like that. But it generally helps to cut down on the edge of especially with the heavier beers, with the stouts, it cuts down on that thickness, right? The heaviness of the beer. When it's sweet, it makes it a lot easier to consume. You know, much like adding sugar to medicine, it helps the medicine go down. I swear there was a song about that, but I'm choosing not to remember it. So yeah, that's the concept of a milk stout. Now, a peanut butter milk stout, peanut butter milk stouts or peanut butter stouts are not a style, so there's not much to say on it, but that is going to be the base flavor we're probably going to be looking for. So what am I going to be looking for in this beer to make it an exceptional beer? Well, as a stout, it's going to have to be dark. I don't want to be able to see through it. Alcohol by volume, I believe this guy is 5.3, so that's... it's up there, you know, definitely for an American beer. So it's up there. Now, anything else I'm looking for, you know, obviously it needs to be sweet, right? It can't, you know, destroy my taste buds with sweetness. I'm not expecting to, you know, be drinking sourpuss or again, a Radler or anything like that. But there needs to be a certain sweetness to it. And then we'll see how they handle the peanut butter flavor. So, I mean, when you get a lot of these flavored beers, we'll call them, or beers that talk about a particular flavor, be it a flute flavor. I wonder what flutes taste like. No, a fruit flavor, or a, you know, a floral or herbal flavor. I've definitely had a rosemary beer before. Or in this case, something more like a food flavor, like a peanut butter. There's a few different ways they can handle it. It can either be, you know, overwhelming. It can be the majority of the taste of it. It can be subtle, like just sort of a background thing. And well, neither of those are wrong per se, but you know, sometimes you run into those beers that just catch that perfect, just a little bit of taste, just enough to make you want more and make it a drinkable beer. Because generally speaking, if it's too subtle, you know, there's just not enough of it there to make it entertaining, and at that point, you're quickly moving on to the next beer, right? It can still be a good beer, absolutely, 100%, but it just, you find that your expectations are fighting, are fighting with what you're actually tasting, you know, just like every cup of tea I've ever had in my life. If it's too strong, it's going to be a one and done, right? Because at that point, you're going to have one glass of beer, and it's gonna be like, wow, that was entertaining and tasty and good. Man, I couldn't do another one like that. I could not, right? But it's when you get into that middle zone, and again, either one of those two can be good beers, but they're, you know, for it to be something that you could drink continuously or enjoy over long periods of time, you usually want to get into that middle range, and that's, well, let's see how they do. I've heard apparently only great things. So let's see how it goes. As you can see, it's a smaller can. Now this has been sitting out for a while, but for darker beers, you usually don't want it straight up fridge temperature, right? What you want out of your darker beers is going to be something that is, you want to let it sit out for a little bit, because you don't want it clean and crisp and cold, and you want to get more of the flavors. So we'll open this guy up, and this try to do this in a way that you guys can see the pour. This drink holder thing. You know what? I'm gonna get a different. Drink holder thing. That's right, drink holder thing. Yeah, that's my thing. Okay. My favorite brewery in the city thus far, Torque. So that's what we're gonna do. Alright, and we're just gonna get this pouring in. Okay, I'm just gonna get out of the camera so you can. So we're just gonna pour this in, and we're gonna see. So that one would have been too big, but let's see. Okay. So I'm gonna turn that Torque around because this isn't actually from Torque. So taking a look at the beer here, I mean it's pretty much what we're looking for, right? It's dark, you can't see through it. I like the head retention. It's bubbling away a little bit right now, so it's not quite at a Guinness, but it doesn't need to be at a Guinness, right? Things don't need to be Guinness all the time. That hit sort of disappeared real quick there. Okay, well, let's move on over to the scene. And, oh, I just caught a little whiff of it there. Okay, so I'm... So I'm definitely getting a peanut butter taste to it. Absolutely. Hold on a second. I'm gonna share this video to someone who is messaging me right now. I'm just gonna send this to her. Maybe she'll stop messaging me. I might get in trouble for that later. We'll see. So, yeah, it's geez, you know, it's weird. These bubbles are looking a lot like, it's hard to see, almost like Coke bubbles. This doesn't look like it's going to be very thick. I'm getting, yeah, a lot of peanut butter smell, but also burnt, I want to say, a little bit. All right, well, let's go for it. So, I'm glad I had that little bit at the beginning there where I talked about sort of the split, because this actually does that quite nicely. This is actually doing a fairly good job of getting that right in the center between the two, because, you know, yeah, I don't feel like I'm eating a peanut butter sandwich, right? Which, as entertaining as that would be, you know, it's not the point, right? So, but I'm definitely getting enough peanut butter flavor. It feels like they just designed a really good stout and then added the peanut butter flavor to it. Yeah. Wow. Now, unfortunately, I do feel that I did leave it out a little too long, as far as I would like it to be a little colder. That ship's kind of sailed at this point. So I am getting maybe a bit of aftertaste to it that I wouldn't normally get, but it's not even that bad. Like, if, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I am really enjoying that. That is nice. So, yeah, it's. There's definitely the sweetness there. Is there, creaminess, right? So that's what you get with the lactose. You get the sweetness, you get the creaminess, you get that. Well, the reason it's called a milk stout, you get that milky sort of thickness, sweetness, right? Milk is sweet. I know we live in a world where everything is covered in sugar, but milk is sweet. And that's sort of the sweetness that you're getting out of this, right? Is that level of sweetness, which is something you want that out of something you'd like to drink a decent amount of. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now, if I'm being honest, see, as I'm drinking it right now, I don't think that I could say that I would pay another $5 if this is what I was expecting. Not that it's good; it's really good. But as far as a $5 beer would go for just a 355 can, it's a little tough to justify. Hey Steven, welcome to the stream. I'm drinking beer and talking about beer and talking about drinking beer. But yeah, for $5, now I would like to try it again at a better temperature. Again, I let it sit out a little too long. I was trying to make food, I was doing other things. That's my bad. So I think I will have to try this one again and maybe do a bit of a revised on this one, just a shorter one. But overall, I'm rather pleased with it. Again, it's hitting all the marks, and you know, it has the peanut butter taste, and I'm just gonna. Yeah, it has the peanut butter taste, but you could give it to someone, they would try it, you know, without knowing the name of it, and they'd say, "Oh, that's good," and you'd say, "Yeah, it's a peanut butter stout," and then be, "Oh, that's what that was." So again, you're not. It doesn't feel like you're eating a peanut butter sandwich. You're not getting beat over the head with it. It's not so subtle that it's disappointing, which is nice. So it's right in that zone I was talking about, that it's a beer you could really enjoy. So I mean, I gotta give him points for the craftsmanship on it. It is definitely hitting all those notes. it's doing what a milk stout needs to do. It's sweet. It's tasty. It's got that peanut butter and that peanut butter flavor right in that zone. So it's not overdoing it. It's not underdoing it. Which I find is very difficult to find very often with the flavored beers when you're getting into the real sort of out there flavors like chocolate. Well, okay, well that's one of the flavors involved in making chocolate, so that's not a big deal. It's really easy to suddenly do that. But once you start to step outside of, the malt flavors, or the very, the citruses, because everybody seems to have mastered the citrus, fruits and things like that, and getting those tastes in. But once you get outside of that, things like, the peanut butter stout, or anything to do with peanut butter, or even some of the more different fruits, raspberries, things like that, they tend to be either overwhelming or underwhelming. So the fact that they've pulled off a peanut butter stout and got in that range is actually really interesting, really refreshing, and it's not a heavy beer either, right? Like if I were of a mind to, I could chug this. It's not a thick, cumbersome to drink beer, right? It's sweet, so obviously the sweetness helps with that, right? And it's lighter than most other dark beers. Like if you were to try this, you probably unless you know more or have had more darker beers and you know what I'm talking about, you would probably be surprised at how light it is, and how easy to drink it is, and how it doesn't feel like it's fighting its way down your throat, if I can continue to use more different analogies. So the peanut butter milk stout gets a thumbs up for me. If it were in a bottle, I'd probably toss it on my wall of beer, but it is not. So, I don't know, maybe I'll rinse it out, we'll see. And do something with that. I just prefer bottles. So, peanut butter milk stout. You get a passing grade, not from Torque. You get a passing grade. So, yeah, I mean, geez, it hits so many marks. I do feel like I do need to put a recommend on this, if not just to try it and to understand what a stout can be and what you're looking for. Yes, it's pricey. For $5, you're paying a lot for a 355 milliliter can, but I think if you're someone who's into beer or looking to get into beer or wants to know more, I think it is worth trying just to see what beer can do. It's one of those outliers, right? So for that, I'm gonna say it's worth it. Definitely go try it out. I'm gonna give it the recommend, and it's something I haven't covered when I'm doing these beer reviews. I haven't really got into ratings or anything like that, and I think I've decided that I'm going to do a simple recommend, not recommend system. Beer is very often to flavor. You're gonna like what you're gonna like. I'm gonna like what I'm gonna like, and I'm trying to do this in a fashion in which I'm actually talking about the beer within the style, within what it is, and help people find beers that they'll enjoy and learn more about beer, right? So if I start using numbers and grading them and rating them, I don't think that's as helpful as simple recommend versus don't recommend. Because I think if, I start giving 9s and 8s to styles I like and lower numbers to styles I don't, I think that's a lot less helpful than simply recommending or not recommending. So that's the system I'm going to go with. So again, Belching Beaver's Peanut Butter Milk Stout is going to get a recommend from me. So the only place I know to find it, I'm going to get an address here for these guys. Throw it into the chat. Because they're on Regent Avenue. And they're attached to the Best Western. And I really do want to recommend. They've only been there once. So, bottle stop? Oh, okay, yeah, I guess, yeah. Nope, not Canada Eggs. Ooh, Best Western. I'll get this for you, don't worry. I think it's Best Western. I think that's what it is. Best Western Beer Winnipeg is Swedes, but I don't want that on the beer place. Well, okay, so the Best Western itself is 900 Regent Avenue. I unfortunately don't have the name of the place, but yeah, 900 Regent Avenue. That's where you gotta go, and you'll find these, and they have a ton of stuff. So I highly recommend checking them out. The staff seem to be incredibly knowledgeable. I went there today, and they were telling me, I mean, a lot of stuff I already do, but I already know a lot of stuff. That's why you're watching this video right now. So yeah, definitely highly recommend checking them out. Might even be worth a trip if they're not in your neck of the woods. If you don't live in Winnipeg, probably a bit of a far drive. You know, maybe just keep tuning in. So I'm gonna be. I've got some more free time these days, so I'm gonna be doing more of these videos. I'm gonna try and do. I'm not gonna say one a day, but that'd be nice. And just doing beer reviews. I'm gonna do it on multiple formats. So let me know what you guys want to see. But yeah, gonna call it there. So that's the peanut butter milk stout from Belching Beaver Brewery. Not in Canada, but in, where did I say? St. Louis, California? Where are they? Where are they? They told me. In, I don't know. I'm on their site, but it's not saying. It's Oceanside, California. So, yeah, everybody have a great evening, and keep drinking beer.